So here I begin at this time with an opening prayer for our annual meeting, the meeting of Christ Church, New Brighton, January 24th, 2020. 2021, don't want to make sure 2021. Let us pray. O Lord and Master, who didst take thy disciples apart with thyself, that they might more perfectly learn thy holy will. We pray thee to draw near to us who at this time will draw near to thee. Deepen our fellowship one with another. Make us sensitive to the guidance of thy Holy Spirit, and so direct our thoughts and words that thy purpose for our lives and for this parish in this annual meeting may be advanced. For the honor and the glory of thy holy name. Amen. I call this meeting to order at this time. The purpose of the meeting, according to our bylaws, really for the election of officers to our vestry and to transact business as may be necessary at this time. It's not a really somebody's phone somewhere. If you can mute at this time, unless you're going to speak, that would be helpful. It's not really an elaborate agenda for the annual meeting. And so the agenda is, as outlined, is to give everyone an opportunity to share in the proceedings. So the appointment of a clerk, Nick, are you there? Nick Latier. Susanna, you're still, is Nick there?
I don't see his, I don't see his name.
I mean, it's recording, so we will have to get him the recording for the minutes. I need to appoint a clerk for Tim. He assured me that he would have been on. Do I have a volunteer to be clerk pro tem? Is Nancy Ryerson on?
I don't think so. Maybe Nick Dowan?
Nick Dowan is on?
I don't know.
I can't see because I'm sharing my screen, and therefore, let me just see something here.
Hello. Nick is getting on. He thought the meeting was next week. Give him a few minutes and he'll be on.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Oh. Okay. As tellers, the nominating committee, I asked under the guidance of Susan, will act as tellers in the event that we have to go to, well, they're acting as tellers now. In other words, they're organizing the votes that were sent in. In the event that we have to go to votes outside of the ones who were nominated, then we're gonna need tellers. Susan?
There were no nominations from the floor among the ballots.
Yeah, so we have not asked the question, so.
What were you asking?
Well, if someone nominates from the floor, then we're gonna have.
Then we have to have a vote.
Yes. And then the nominating committee would act as the tellers for the nominating committee would act as the tellers for the the votes.
Father Bob?
Yes.
Excuse me, just an inquiry. Is it at this point that we declare a quorum for this annual general meeting?
A quorum, the bylaws just say that the majority of the qualified voting members present. Simple majority. So I don't have a stipulation as to quorum. Simple majority of the voting members present. That works. And I think that there was wisdom in writing it that way in the bylaws.
Well, we have 33 people on this site and we had 61 pledgers, which is a little more than half. So, I mean, there's nothing else that you can do.
Right, and it is the ones who are present, the simple majority of those present. So if we have 33 present, then we need 18 to 16, 17 of those to be the simple majority.
All right.
And some of the 33 are doubles too, so.
Yes. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
All right. So here we are. Is Nick on as yet?
Don't see him.
If someone would like to act in that capacity until he gets on, but it's being recorded, I will give him the recorded version so that he can get the details. But we need a clerk.
You don't want me, I worked last night. I can barely stand.
All right. David, raise his hand. David would be, thank you, David. David is going to be clerk pro tem until we see Nick show up, but this is a recorded meeting and therefore we will have it recorded to be transcribed thereafter. The minutes of the 2020 annual meeting are in the booklet. Those minutes are there. I will try to share them as Let me go into a single page format. Open this a little bit more. Here we are. Bear with me as we try to do all of this. Electronically. The minutes. Page 6, here we are. These are the minutes of the 2020 annual meeting. For those who didn't have the books, I'm gonna roll it down slowly. Here comes Nick. Here, David. Nick is in. That's the first page of the minutes. Page 2 of the minutes.
When do we point out corrections?
If you see one, just point it out.
If you go back to page 1, the spelling of Huldeen's name is wrong. At the bottom, the last paragraph.
All right, share those. The last paragraph, Huldeen. H-U, the two vowels, A-I-O-U, H-U, okay. We'll get that corrected. All right.
Can we do that later?
Yep. I just messed up something here.
Should be corrected in the minutes.
Yeah, we corrected for reposting. Let me.
Next minutes.
Yes. What did I do for font? Oh, okay, got it. All right, Nick. Nick. You'll be in this correction here, so we'll get that right. Page 7, which is page 2 of the.
Yeah, you there? Father Bab, Nick is not able to get in because he's getting a recording that is the code he's putting in is invalid.
Well, what code does he need?
I have no idea. Nick, they want to 363-075. Go. What else?
107.
107. Mm-hmm.
And then he has to put in a password.
What's the password?
026-300.
All right, hold on. Let me give you the right password. Father, would you repeat it?
026
026
300.
300. Okay.
He was in just now. I don't know why. All right, page 2 of the minute. Page 3 of the minutes.
The word PMS needs to be changed to PEMS.
Also, under financial secretary's report, McLean once again has only 1 C, not 2.
All right.
And the word acting treasurer, I hope that was a typo. I don't recall that being we having an acting treasurer.
I think Nick is on the waiting to be admitted. I'll just let him in. All right, those are corrections. David, could you continue to take until? Yes, thank you. We noted all of those corrections. The end minutes of page 3. Page 4. Okay, we've had the minutes read. Corrected. I'd like to move for the acceptance of the minutes. Shout. Motion to accept the minutes as read and corrected. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 You got it. Those not in favor? Any abstentions? I think the ayes have it. The minutes have been duly moved, accepted as correct. All right, I'm going to ask the nominating committee chair, Susan. Susan, where did you go?
I'm right here.
Oh, okay. If you would present the slate.
Sure.
Vestry and Warden.
Junior Warden, Alida Mitchell. Vestry members for 3 years, 4 candidates. Daniel Del Valle, Etta Johnson, Carlos Trapp, Titus Zeze.
Those are the presentations for Vestry 2023.
Right.
2023. Are there any nominations? The floor. Anyone want to nominate anyone from the floor? Let me go to page 43. Here's the nominated slate. And they're all in the update. If you
I move that the slate be accepted and the nominations be closed.
A motion
Second.
moved and Julie second.
Seconded by who?
Lester.
Stanwyck.
Victor?
Yes.
Okay.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those not in favor?
Aye.
Those not in favor? Did I hear aye? No. Okay. I think I have it. Nominations closed. Since there are no more nominations for Vestry, I'm going to ask the clerk to cast one vote for the entire slate. Nick?
Got it. Got it.
As said, Nick said got it. So the slate, Del Valle, Etta Johnson, Carlos Trapp, Titus Zeze, and
Alder Mitchell.
Alder Mitchell for junior warden. Automatically, we have serving as senior warden, Michelle Heath. So we want to congratulate the new slate, and we thank those who will continue and thank those who have ended their term. Thanks to Susan and the nominating committee for presenting the slate for our meeting today. Thank you. Give them a round of applause. Okay. The next item on the agenda. If you can mute, that would be helpful. Just mute. Thank you. Election. So director's annual State of the Parish address. Again, welcome to all of you. Dear saints of God, friends, and well-wishers of Christ Church, New Brighton, greetings and welcome to our annual meeting of 2021. No doubt, all of us have come through one of the most painful years in our history. It has been a year marked by crises. These crises, in my opinion, can be classified in three broad categories. Firstly, the global pandemic, as in the case of COVID-19 or the coronavirus. Secondly, a national economic depression and the absence of strong leadership in the highest office of our nation. And thirdly, unprecedented racial turmoil, which we saw erupted in an attempted coup on January the 6th, 2021, at the halls of democracy on Capitol Hill. Since we are not living in a silo or some bubble, we as a religious institution have been impacted by all three of these crises. As you know, we as a community of faith have not gathered to celebrate that which is central to our faith tradition in almost 1 year, and may not do so for yet many months to come. This is not because we do not want to, for we have shown the appetite for community, that is, in-person community, through the few gatherings we have held. One in particular was the Christmas tree lighting, where some 75 plus persons gathered. While it was good, I held my breath because some were just determined to enjoy such freedom and were not as cognizant of the protocols as required. Yet, by the grace of God, no illnesses resulted, and the goal of the event was more than met. Please know that the matter of reopening for in-person worship is not something that has been taken lightly by me or any of those serving on the committee. Every time we thought there was a possibility to facilitate such, the virus became more vicious, and although some of our neighboring churches opened, in some cases, they have reverted to just offering virtual worship. The pandemic is nobody's friend, and that is why we have been extremely sensitive to create the best environment for the safety and well-being of all. The committee has met some 4 to 5 times already. And after much discussion, the unanimous response and advice given was to remain closed and continue with our Zoom worship. I had hoped that many more would have been appreciative of our efforts, but then we had to work through the pastoral fallout of who is Zoom literate and who does not like Zoom and the many other attitudes that followed. Our Zoom attendance has been around 27 to 35 hits, resulting in an estimated calculation of 45 to 50 persons per Sunday. As we continue to work toward reopening, plans will be put in place to accommodate those who have frequently participated in our worship from other states. To this end, I will be appointing, in addition to the reopening committee, a technical team to help us to better be equipped to handle the post-COVID-19 scenario. Many of our young people are social media savvy, and here is where their skills can be employed to the glory of God. In my report, I have published several highlights of ministry and would encourage you to read it in our booklet. And just as a side, there's still other booklets available. If you need a booklet, you just need to come to the church today when we finish between 1 and 3. They will be on the outside steps. You can pick it up, a copy of the booklet. So read the report in the booklet. However, let me speak to 3 things in particular, namely infrastructure, outreach, fundraising, and leadership. Infrastructure. Our building is very, very old. And with all things aged, something is bound to break or stop working altogether. We have seen over the past year combinations of infrastructural fatigue that have required our immediate attention, which are very costly. One manifested itself during our period of shutdown, and one we have been talking about for years before I became your rector on August the 1st, 2017. The combined cost of these two projects alone, which need to be done, is almost $150,000. While I did not foresee the pipes from the main boiler rupturing in a manner to make our building inoperable, in my State of the Parish address in 2018, I laid out a 10-point plan to move us forward, which required at the time an estimated $350,000 investment, with the idea of creating investment opportunity with respect to things talked about, including the auditorium. That plan, I believe, is still relevant and will require a bold leadership to revisit and execute. Maintenance of our edifice will be with us and will require a continued close attention of the need for repairs beyond our operating budget. That is why other sources of funding have been leveraged to assist in the current two major projects. Thanks to the outstanding work of our new P&E chair, Daniel Del Valle, and the senior warden, Susan Fowler. We are also thankful to Rich Bailey's leadership while he served as P&E chair before relocating to Mississippi. Outreach and fundraising, my second. The impact of our outreach ministry is undoubtedly critical to our ongoing survival and thriving. We cannot and must not be a church that ever just look inward. Our outreach programming was a critical part of my accepting the call to be your rector, and I want to see more of it. In this regard, I am eternally grateful for the passion and time given to this ministry by Alida Mitchell. Yet I am painfully aware that many of our outreach ministries will not survive unless we are able to find needed grants. We as a parish, through the leadership of the Vestry, must come to a decision as to how best to streamline our outreach effort to make them more affordable to our now context going forward. Grants are being dried up and Alida is getting tired, and the need for support in this area is crucial. We need someone to step in and write grants and help to keep us on track to optimize any such offerings for the ministry we do. As to fundraising, we can only do so much. And those we do must clearly be supported by more than who support them now. We cannot continue on a trajectory having some form of fundraiser every month to support our operation. I have done the causality study of constant fundraising, and it is one recipe for the destruction of a church and the lives of people. We cannot do it any longer. Fundraising going forward must be strategic and earmarked. I invite others to step up and lead fundraisers that give us the biggest bang and buck for the effort. No doubt, fundraising has become our fallback to stewardship. And when this happens, we will never be able to meet budget, and we will cut and cut and cut until we have nothing to cut. Stewardship of all and by all must be our goal. That is, no matter how small, all of us must share for the whole. While some endowment infusion is expected, this song we have sung several times, drawing at more than 4 to 5% will be sure to render us a church at risk in the next 3 years. If you have not made a commitment to your churches yet, I encourage you to do so. While I understand the difficulty and hardness of this economic downturn. And so I say, if you are struggling with issues of basic needs and need our help, please know that we are here to assist, but can only do so with the resources all of us put forward. If the coronavirus has taught us anything, it is this: we need each other, and the church should be modeling to such a practice. Leadership. We have seen a significant shift in leadership in this time of pandemic. While we have been able to fill all the vacancies that occurred, it was not easy, especially at a time like this. These vacancies included P&E chair, Christian formation chair, godly play coordinator, stewardship chairs, vestry membership, music ministry, pastoral care chairs. I may have missed one or so. When we look at the back of our bulletin and see the many ministries listed there, I believe we need to re-examine for a more robust 21st century ministry. Let me read that again. When we look at the back of our bulletin and see the many ministries listed there, I believe we need to re-examine that list for a more robust 21st century ministry. Considering this, I will propose to the new vestry that we restate and streamline the ministries noted with respect to a commission structure. This, I hope, will help in better managing the ministries programs we offer and who is accountable for what. Commission chairs will be appointed for no more than 2 years, renewable after that period or changed as needed. Let me, in closing, thank those whose term on the vestry ends today, as I will acknowledge others who have provided outstanding leadership during this past year. I thank all of you for your continued ministry and support. Thank you for your time, and thank you for listening. Thank you.
Well said. Well said.
At this time, we'll now have a report by our financial secretary as to where we are with pledges taken in for the year.
Good morning, everybody.
Beth?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Good morning, Beth.
I can hear you. Can't see your face, but it's okay.
Oh, I don't know what.
All right.
Okay, so in your booklet, you can see the figures. We are now at 60, actually we're at 62 people pledging. We are about $14,000 more than the pledgers of last year, which is good.
Okay. I'm going to go to page 24 so you can see that on the screen.
Okay, I'll wait a minute.
Page 24. I have to be jumping back and forth with all of this stuff. Here it is. I think that's it, Beth?
Yep, that's it.
All right.
So, I mean, we have 3 new pledges, but of course, we certainly would aim to increase that and increase our enrollment in the church. Most of us, I'm getting a message about a pledge card. Most of the people who do contribute between $1,000 and $2,000 a year. Shelley had mentioned a while ago that people may be confused about the word pledge. And tithing, of course, has to do with giving money and generally 10% of whatever net income you have. So if you're making $90,000 a year, you would hopefully give us $9,000 a year. So as it is, we will continue to try to get people to pledge. I acknowledge Andrea and Lester and their committee for working very diligently to get people to pledge. We still have a couple of stragglers. You know, get your cards in writing, please. At the bottom, you can see, as usual, we have people who are in arrears, and we also have people who give over their pledge constantly, every single week. And we have people who obviously will fulfill their pledges. So are there any questions?
Thank you, Beth, for this detailed report.
You're welcome.
You can see it there. For those, you said that you have a few more pledges that you have received. Somebody just call in one.
Yeah, I didn't read it.
Okay.
But I will look. I mean, it's just one. So.
All right.
There's a couple of other people who actually need to pledge on the vestry.
All right, and it must be clear that members of the vestry, certainly we cannot be the champions if we are not fulfilling our role as well. So I'm going to be very pastoral about that, but very serious about it.
Okay.
We have to walk the walk and talk the talk.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Beth.
You're welcome, Father.
Thank you. The presentation of the 2021 budget. Mark, are you on? Richard, are you presenting the budget or Mark?
No. It's Mark.
Where is Mark? Mark on?
Unless if he's not on.
I don't know who is on right now because I'm sharing my screen. I can only see a few people.
Mark was on.
Okay, I see 4 numbers. I don't see. Richard, why don't you go ahead and, since you have been integrally involved with the budget preparation, why don't you go ahead and...
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, Mark?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Okay.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was on mute. I didn't realize it. Sorry about that.
Okay, I'll put the budget up on the screens for the others.
Okay.
That is going to be page, in the booklet, page, that's page, just trying to get the page right. Page 20.
Right. 20 through 22.
Yeah.
Okay. And just hi, everybody. And I just wanted to say that what I'll do is go through the budget and go through highlights of the budget and then open it up for questions. And I guess that's how we'll proceed. And just so you all know, we had the Finance Committee met on several occasions to discuss what was going to happen for 2021. We found out from, of course, Father Babb that, and the diocese, that they anticipated, at least at the time we put the budget together, that it was intended that we thought that the church would reopen in the second quarter of 2021. So we sort of went under the assumption that things would somewhat go back to normal in the second quarter. And then we looked at what happened in 2020 and went back to what happened years prior and the budget the year that was set for 2020. So I'll go through and I guess highlight some things, and then like I said, you can ask questions if you'd like at the end. So we set the pledge budget at what we considered to be realistic, which seems pretty close to what came in this past year at the $115,000.
Yes.
The plate collection, we set at 75% of the 2020 budget, assuming that we'd be open for 3/4 of the year. The same thing for special offering. Fundraising, we met with the committee chair, Alida Mitchell, and in looking at what fundraising was done in 2020 and what's anticipated to perhaps occur, depending on how things work out in 2021, we set it at 50% of the 2020 budget. Parking lot rental, after consultation with Father Babb and how the parking lot rental is being managed at this point, we really set that at 10% of the 2020 budget because they don't really anticipate the feasibility of utilizing the parking lot, considering insurance concerns, et cetera, and the marketing of it at this point. The Lenten offering, although it was down for 2020, because of course it came at the same time that the COVID and pandemic started. In discussions with fundraising committee as well, it was concluded that we thought that we could do better this year and sort of come in at the budget that we had envisioned, closer to the budget that we had envisioned for 2020. So we set that at 3/4 of the budget as well. Production rental, once again, with the reduction in filming anticipated, and that occurred, of course, in 2020 and was anticipated 2020, we reduced that to 20% of the 2020 budget. Project hospitality remained the same. Other income that you'll see on the budget report was really money that came in from grants to assist churches this year with salaries that was applied for and obtained by the church. We're not sure if that will occur again. We see that there's an opening again for 2021 to apply for grants to assist with salaries. Those grants will have to be put out there. We don't know if we're going to get them, so we left that at 0 at the time being. The other thing that I think that we added, of course, was altar flower revenue, which is roughly, the cake's in about $2,000 a year. And as you'll see further in the budget, will be offset by the cost of what is spent by on flowers, et cetera. As far as salaries, we didn't have any real changes to the rector's salary. But as far as layperson salaries, we did have some changes that were made. For the singers, we reduced the budget by 25% as they'll not be performing for the first quarter of the year. For the organist, and after consultation with the rector and the organist, we reduced the budget for the organist by 50% for the first quarter of the year, since he'll have reduced responsibilities for the first quarter. For the nursery, we also reduced the salary, anticipating that probably won't get back to normal until at least, perhaps even after the summer. The parish administrator, the pay was reduced by $17.50 to $17.50 per hour, and hours reduced to 16 hours per week. And on lay personnel, we reduced the hour salary for the first quarter by 50% of the 2020 budget. Now, as far as expenses were concerned, we actually, a lot of the expenses don't necessarily change because they're ongoing expenses, such as office supplies, the audit, church insurance. But we did, for repairs and maintenance, break out certain categories this year because they wanted to be more transparency in how that was being administered. So we reduced the repairs and maintenance overall budget for, emergency things, fixing toilets, things of that nature, to $10,000 per year. And we broke out the expenses then on the budget lines for some of the other items, which were Prince Tech, Verizon, lawn care, and snow removal. And you'll see there's roughly, and although the overall P&E budget wasn't set at $8,000, it was rounded up to 10. Prince Tech accounts for that, which is telephone and security. Verizon, which is internet and FiOS, which budgeted for $4,700. Lawn care, which is ties back to what I guess is pretty much what's anticipated to be spent for 2021, is $6,300. And snow removal, which is the budgeted amount for the contract, was $4,000. We also added a budget line to accommodate loan repayments because they took out loans for the chimney in the rectory, and they took out loans for the pipes that are being fixed that are underneath the parish house. So we're paying back those loans. So we had to budget those in this year for monies that we're going to have to accommodate to pay back those loans, which are roughly $7,774 for the year. Utilities basically remain the same. And then I'm just looking at others. Fellowship was a new line established for the coffee hour, which technically, if we collect enough money for the coffee hour, should be at zero, but it was set in there as well. There was a travel and expense. This line item transfers for the rector was current fees that or have been incurred by the rector. And then production agent fees, this fee was reduced by 20% to 20% of the anticipated revenue. For programs, for church school, we reduced by 25% from the 2020 budget. Christian formation was a new budget line requested by the rector, and Christian formation was set at $200. That was for, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Father Babbitt, for adult education.
Mm-hmm.
And pastoral care was reduced by 60% to be more in line with what the actual expenses are. Evangelism was reduced by 75% as stewardship was broken out to be more in line with actual expenses. A new line was set up for stewardship to show what the costs for, processing stewardship, that the stewardship committee putting together the materials, et cetera, and the cost of that. The feeding ministry was reduced by 50% to come more in line with what actual expenses are. Feeding ministry was reduced, altar guild was reduced by 25% from the 2020 budget. Music was kept at the same budget for 2020, as a lot of the music expense is in connection with repairs that are done to the organ that are being done currently with the assistance of the organist. And by him facilitating doing the repairs himself, he's keeping the cost lower than if we were to actually go out and get an outside service to do it. Fundraising was reduced by 50% in connection with the 57% reduction in fundraising revenue. The diocesan assessment was reduced in connection with the reduction in the cost that is designated by the diocese annually. After school was also reduced by 25%. Other program expense was reduced by 33% for the 2020 budget. Altar flowers is an expense that was added, which is really offset by the revenue that we do. So it's sort of like a wash. And we added a line item for pilgrimage because the church had committed this year to support the pilgrimage and had committed a line or an amount of roughly $1,000 to the pilgrimage group. So that was added into the budget as well. As you can see by the looks of the budget, there's going to be a loss of roughly $153,000. That's not taking into consideration the draw that we usually pull from our investments. As you know, we've been pulling annually $120,000 for our investments. We did not pull that full amount this year because we didn't need the full amount. And as you can see, there's an offsetting line item that shows that we've actually not used all of what has been drawn for 2020. But at the $120,000, we're using roughly 7.5% of our investments when the known draw should be 4.5% to 5%. So we're eating away at our principal, and I think we've said that, on an annual basis. And Father Babb touched upon it earlier in his report to the parish. That as we continue to draw down, of course, on the principal, we reduce the principal, we reduce the amount of our interest that we can take, and we just reduce the amount of our overall investments, and it deteriorates our financial stability. Once again, the only thing we can say is that we need to focus on trying to increase revenues, and then, of course, in a year with COVID and a year with COVID starting again, that's going to be a difficult task to undertake, but it's something that everybody has to focus on, and anybody that has ideas that can help improve the financial health of the church, either through fundraising or through other ways of utilizing the facility once the church does reopen for rental possibilities, etc. Those are all welcome. fortunately, Alan and Mitchell's bright idea this year of, facilitating the Christmas tree event did raise significant income, which was greatly needed and greatly appreciated. Ideas like that are quite welcome, as everybody knows, and any other ways of facilitating income increases. I think, we've said on an annual basis that we need to still look at project hospitality and see if there's more revenue to be earned there. And I think that's something that hopefully will be pursued again in 2021. So I'll open it up if anybody has any questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is Kathy. Can you hear me?
Kathy? Yes, Kathy.
Yeah. I'm sorry I couldn't pick up the binder. I'll try to go and get it today. But remember in past years at the annual meeting, the congregation was informed of the balance in what you call the PEMS account. At the end of each year, there's, what the balance is.
Here it is.
Can you say what it was in the end of 2019 and then the end of 2020?
Well, here's the report we have for PEMS. It's on the screen.
Where is that? Fiduciary? That's the fiduciary? Right
Fiduciary
here?
trust, yes.
Oh, I see. Statement of account, starting value. Can you stop year to date? Because, the market has been very strong.
Yes.
Year.
What it's saying is that we ended in terms of accrued income about 1.5 million. That's where we are. We're still awaiting the December report. This was up until November.
Right. You keep scrolling. I can't.
Yeah.
But comparing to 2019,
all right, I'm gonna have to let the financial persons give that, and I don't know if they have that information handy. Richard or Mark, is there any information with respect to that? And you may want to, Richard?
Yes, I'm here.
Do you have any answer for that, or you want to leave this until you get to the year-end report, treasurer's report?
I don't know, maybe it's in the minutes of last year.
Yeah, last year, you will find in a minute for what last year was like. At the end, our book value for last year for 2020 was 1,047,467.14.
I'm sorry.
1 million.
At the end of 2019?
Yeah, our market value of 1.5 million.
At the end of 2019?
Yes.
So it hasn't changed very much.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Just as Father said, we have not yet received our December 31st, report, the statement. So when we receive that, probably what we're talking about might be up than where we are at 1.5.
Right. Okay.
So at the end of November, what you're saying is that we are still about 1.5.
Right. Right.
So the market
was strong.
Yes.
So we're about the same place that we were a year ago.
Yes.
Notwithstanding our draw.
Right.
Okay.
And also what is happening too, even though the market was strong, but there were a lot of fluctuation, given, certain events, at the national level. So that was also something that we did.
All right.
Like it rallied in our favor, yes?
Yes,
Kathy?
it did.
Yes.
I have to say what helped us, even though we didn't draw as much from PEMS as this last year. What helped us was the influx from the diocese during the COVID period, because we still had the expenses, but they were offset by those grants that we got from the diocese.
Right,
So
which
the
was roughly
expenses were still there, but we were
$126,000.
able to pay them without having to pull all that money from PEMS.
Yes.
What did you say, Mark?
No, I said which was roughly $125,000. The grants that we received this year.
$105,000 money from other ways in the thing. There was a closing of the Hoyt that brought in about 20-something thousand dollars. And then there were other significant gifts that we got to the church. I think, I don't know if some of that money in there is from, I don't want to even, I don't think it's in there. Shirley Alford's memorial. Is that some of that other in there or no?
Shirley Alford is on our other income.
Right, okay.
And all of what we receive on our other income, you will realize that depends, you know, as you know, COVID-19 relief from the diocese, that is also included, which was like $84,000.
All right.
So
well,
let us,
yeah. Let's complete the budget, and then we can get the treasurer's report. We can get some more details. So that's the budget that was presented to the vestry, accepted by the vestry.
Can I say something?
And understood to be that we will revisit that at the end of the first quarter for any other fiscal adjustments.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Could I speak, please?
Yes, please.
Oh, thank you. First of all, Mark and Richard, thank you for your contributions and sharing your financial expertise with this congregation. I'm sure, you know, everyone is grateful. That is not my forte, so I'm particularly grateful. But I want to share this observation, and again, it's not a criticism, but I feel we can speak candidly and openly. As you know, with this terrible pandemic, we hear more and more of the use of the term essential workers. And of course, we know the medical staff and all, but more and more people are starting to realize that there are very basic contributions from workers who are not often recognized. Excuse me, I'm turning off my phone, sorry. And I would like to raise the issue of the parish administrator. Now, I don't have the report and I don't have it on my screen now, but I did hear, Mark, you talked about a reduction, and I noticed her salary has decreased from 3 years ago when it was 29,000 to I don't know what it is now, I think 24, but I don't have it on the screen. But that's an example, I think, of an essential worker, and her hours have been reduced, which I think is not wise. And I know we're trying to cut to the bone many things. And so I'm really concerned about that issue, that our parish administrator is an essential worker and helps the church to run, and I know is an asset to Father Trevor. So I was hoping that could be reconsidered. Would you consider that possibility, please, of adjusting that salary? And I'm talking about increasing it and also the hours, obviously, to increase. Thank you.
Thank you for that input. Certainly that will be something that the suggestion will be taken. We will review it in context with our current reality and see where we go from there. But I mean, lots of input was given to that as we tried to slim the budget down. And so thank you for your compassionate plea, and we will certainly look at it with respect to that at our next vestry meeting. And certainly your concern will be responded to. Thank you. Seeing that there are no other questions for the financial secretary, I was saying that the budget was adopted at the last Vestry meeting, which is the prerogative of the Vestry, is given to us as information and for suggestions so that the Vestry in a full complement can review any suggestions that have been taken at the annual meeting. The Vestry now acts as the board of the parish until the next annual meeting. And so we will take any suggestions that were made today, like one from Anne, and make some decisions going forward. We don't need to vote on the budget. It's already been voted and accepted by the Vestry. Suggestions for adjustments will be taken up by the next Vestry and reported back out to the general population. Thank you.
Can I say something before we move on to the next item, please?
You are so.
I want to go back to Beth's report, the financial secretary's report, and appeal for more parishioners to pledge. And I was asked by one of our parishioners on this call now to please mention the fact that our youngest pledger for this year happens to be my granddaughter. And this was done because of her mother teaching her about money management. And out of her pocket money that she will continue to receive monthly, she agreed to give a percentage of that to the church. And that's when she filled out her pledge card. And I spoke to her about the importance of living up to her pledge, the reasons she pledges, and perhaps other parishioners with grandchildren and children who get pocket money can start to in that way. It doesn't matter the amount. It's just your commitment to give something what you can afford for the upkeep of our church.
Thank you, Alida. I see Deborah Lindsay, your hand is up. Debbie?
Yes, I have something to ask about what Alida just said. I know that there was some children a few years ago back that were pledging, and apparently it wasn't the law that they could pledge or give money. Is that right or not?
It wasn't the law?
Yes, no, kids were pledging and they were told that they couldn't pledge, the kids could not pledge anymore.
I don't know who made that decision. There's no law to say that you need to pledge. This is out of gratitude. So if a kid wants to pledge and the parents are in agreement with the commitment that they're trying to make, that's all that is needed. So there is no law. I'm not aware of that. That probably was before 2017.
I think it was. Yep. I think there were some kids that used to give, and apparently it had to do with age or something. I seem to remember something mentioning. It wasn't that long after I started coming to church.
All right.
And Angela was about 5 years of age then.
Yes. I'm going to have two comments on it. I get Willie and then the doctors.
Okay. Yeah, the problem I had with that is that when my kids both pledged, when we first got to the church, both my kids pledged, and the money was not counted towards a pledge. They said, oh no, they can give the money, but it's not part of the pledge, for the annual pledge for the parish. And I could not figure out why that was, so my kids stopped giving money.
Okay, so this is the first time I'm hearing about this conversation. So It's okay. We will try to correct it. Dr. Webb and Dr. Blair.
So I think, as I recall, there was a discussion at a previous parish meeting as to whether junior members of the parish, people under the age of 18, could participate in Vestry. And I do believe that we heard, perhaps it was from Kathy or one of our other lawyers, that they reviewed the New York State law on religious organizations, and individuals who are minors could not take on that responsibility because of the liability that Vestry members have towards the finances of the church. That was the discussion that I recall, but I don't recall anything about children not being able to pledge.
I don't either. I've never heard that.
Okay. All right. So we will resolve that, and we will be very specific when we, as we move from this. Let it be said now that kids, along with their parents, are encouraged to share their gifts with the church, whether it be finance, talent, whatever they have with the church. And there's no legislation that says they can't. I think for legal reasons, I can understand that. I'm not all familiar, and I don't think our legal counsel is on this morning. Andrea, are you on?
No, I don't see this. No, this is Kathy, and can you hear me?
Yes.
Now, I remember the discussion, and I think the answer is not to call it a pledge, because a pledge by its nature implies that a person is granted certain privileges, rights and privileges, and perhaps because people are under the age of 18, they cannot have the privileges, but there's no reason why they can't donate to the church, right?
Okay.
It's a gift. It's a gift.
Yes, we'll have that as a conversation at our first meeting, and probably something we take up with the stewardship committee as well. Thank you so much. We're moving on from the budget to the treasurer's report. Richard, you want me to put those up? Richard Zeze. I wish. Richard.
Yes, Father, I'm here.
Oh, good. You want me to put, let's see your face and your garden.
Sure.
I'm gonna pull that up on pages 20, I think it is. Here it is, 17. This is the end of the year. Okay.
Thank you, Father.
All right. All right.
Most of what we've been able to accomplish this year have already been said by Mark. If you look at pledges and whatnot, what we realized at the end of the year in terms of income was $369,648.37. Of that income, it was generated from the following sources. You also heard from Mark, the Association pledge. We received 4 payments of $21,000 each, which was $84,000. That is part, of the income we received from Shelley F. Memorial, CCO Holiday Baskets, Pilgrimage, Liberian Schools, donation, Valle, and also from the capital campaign and bank interest earned. If you go down the line, you see that plate collection was really low, 39.07%, due to the fact that, we did not meet in person, immediately after the pandemic started. And it goes down the line. If you look at special offering, it was very low also at 28.4%. And going down. And that's why I just don't want to repeat all of what Mark said. The investment draw for the year was 100,000 as compared to what is usually drawn for like 125 to 120,000 a year. Father, can you go up? And when you go down the line for salaries, clergy salary total 129, 132.13%, which is 97.98%. And then you go down to lay persons. Father, can you go down? I mean, and if you go to lay person, you realize if you go to lay persons, Father up, you're going to say, okay, lay person. But the total is not down here. Lay person, you're going to see some variation because at one point in time, the singers were not actually doing much of what they usually do throughout the year. So you're going to see some shortfall in terms of what they were paid throughout the year and what was budgeted. Okay, so layperson benefits and salary was up to 321.06. Giving a total salary benefit of 202,453.19. And then we go down to operating expenses. As you can see, office supplies. And the reason why, it's up by 12.994% has to do with, the purchase. There were some very good people in the church that also donated some money towards the purchase of the new fridge that you see now in the church. Also, there was some donation made for the purchase, of the purchase of the vacuum. So even though it's up by 12,994.39, I mean, I'm sorry, it was up by 12,994, but the donation also helped to offset the cost. Okay. This year we have not had so much of hit on the snow, but whatever it was, like the first time we had the snow, there was some cost that we encountered that you see of $600. So as compared to previous year, I mean, we know that the cost for handling snow removal and whatnot is higher than what it is. So thank goodness to good nature for the time being. So total operating expenses at 94,012.93. And you go down to program expenses. Church school was very, very low due to the pandemic. We were not that much present, at our church. And you're going to see on our program expenses, you see that the budget was 1,500. But the only reason why you will see that is other program expenses constitute the following: CCO, Christmas basket, and Thanksgiving. There were money that we have to pay off for the Boy Scout. Church retreat also is part of that. Honorarium for Black History Month is also part of that. And expenses incurred for pilgrimage was also part of that, and bank charges. Grand total program expenses was at $22,871.13. Salary and benefits is at $202,453.19, and our operating expenses is at $116,884.06, giving a grand total expenses of $319,337.25. If you realize we had budgeted $343,027, and we are at $319,337.25. And so our excess of income over expenses is $50,311.12. We are actually, instead of being in the negative, and this was a blessing from donations that came in or the grant for the COVID relief, COVID-19 relief, that came in, to the church. Let me also state here that on our other program expenses, what we have done in order not to jump all of these things into one, corrective action on other program expenses moving forward has been stated in the budget that we have established budget line item that will be able to cover all of these things so that it will be specified based on a chart of account. So we need to revisit our chart of account and do so. At this meeting, I'd like to also let you know that in terms of balance sheet, we were not able to have draw up a balance sheet simply because throughout the year is also in Father's report that we were negatively impacted by COVID-19 with the process of actually setting up this new system. But I can let you know that action in progress have started, and the setting up of the new accounting software, we have already started. Listen in those data. Father, you went to something else.
No, well, tell me where you want me to be now.
Because I don't see anything on the screen anymore. Can you go back to the last after you left? Thank you very much. So what led to the, yes, I mean, what led to, our excess of income of $50,311.12, as I indicated earlier, was because of the financial advantage of COVID-19. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions of this detailed report? Seeing none, we shall press on.
I got one quick question, Father. Does that mean that since we had a surplus that we don't have to take money out of our investments, or is that true, or?
That's a good question. The answer to that is that coming into the first quarter of 2021, we have not taken any money from the investment. So we'll see how that runs for the second quarter. We have not taken any money from that. But again, due to the donations and frugal spending, we have done some significant cuts to the budget towards the end of the year to help us to balance the equation. We have been able to end up on this good footing. So we don't know how the second quarter is going to look, but right now, yes, we have not taken any money from the endowment for the first quarter.
Also, in addition to that, Marsha, one of the things that really make us to be, in the blue or, at a very positive end is simply because of, the blessings from the relief from the diocese. And so I think if you have also heard, there are still, some promising things that may come up. And if we are fortunate, probably we might be able to, get some more money that might help us to close some of these. Thank you.
I think you should also note, though, that you did withdraw $100,000 from the investments this year. And
Yes.
so although you have a $50,000, surplus, you did withdraw $100,000. So that $50,000 surplus is really a surplus from our investments that's rolling over into 2021.
Right. Right. And that all of the major capital expenditures, I don't know if Richard wanted to touch on that second account, all of the major capital expenditures were really, if we had to depend on the operating budget, we would have been really in the negative, but we were able to creatively pull together some grants in order to get the big stuff done, and still working on one of the big stuff, which is the chimney at the rectory, but we were able to get the pipeline from the boiler all repaired so that we could stop that big leak we were having coming into the gymnasium. So
correction, grant and loan, we still have that. We still have to pay, even though the project is completed, we have to pay the loan.
Yes, grant and loan.
To it.
Yeah, grant and loan. Thank you. Grant and loan. Yeah, yes. But but we could not have afforded that through the operating budget. Richard, do you want to say anything about the kind of what we call the restricted account? You have a report there.
Yes.
And then we'll move on.
On a restricted account, Father, can you put it on the?
I'm getting there. Yes.
Yes. Let me first use this time to thank members of the Vestry and also the chair of the Finance Committee, Mark, for their efforts. As you can see, the Vestry have been very proactive when it comes to, accountability. And so we recommended to the Vestry that one of the good things that we can do is not to, have both, these programs and capital expenses or whatever money we receive, to be just placed in a general account. But it's better to have a restricted, account so that we don't mix up with what we are doing on a daily basis. So that we want to make sure we separate, what is operational and what has to do with programs, because some of the grants that you write, they have some reporting procedure that we need to follow. And so if we don't, keep different track of what we're doing in program and with our operational activity, it makes it extremely very confusing sometimes. So the Vestry did endorse that a separate account be open at Northfield Bank. And this is where all of whatever program we have, we try to put this amount in there so that we operate directly from the restricted side on this account. And so we are still working with Alida Mitchell and with Mark. We're going to determine all of the deposits that were made, through the counters to make sure that, we'll be able to do the rest of the reconciliation, between the operational and the program. So you can see that the income we had from the CCO, the holiday, food baskets, see a total of 13,640. And the after school program, we received grant of 4,300. And then the diocese also gave us a loan that Alida Mitchell was talking about, a bank interest and pilgrimage. Also, members of the parish and friends of the church, Christ Church have also been really supportive when it comes to pilgrimage, 4,170. the whole distribution of 23,800. And also there was some money deposited in there for the Liberian school. And RPC grant is the organ repair that father was able to do a grant for in order to do some repair work. And that gave us a grand total of 89,198.98. Father, can you go down? And the expenses incurred, you will see that from the CCO, from 13, we spent 11,478.81, and CCYO, which has to do with the Thanksgiving, spent 5,175.35. Bank charges 269.87, and that was actually for the purchase of the checkbooks at the beginning of opening up the account. Plant and equipment, we have used 63,000, as Father was talking about, when it comes to the chimney, the pipes and whatnot. And pilgrimage, it's $184.14. Total expenses, 108.27. Father, can you go down? And that left off with an excess of income of 9,090.71. And the bank balance for this particular account, the restricted account at no fee as at December 31st, is 33,781.65. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, members of the...
Father Bab, I think Dot Thompson has her hand up.
Okay, can't see it, but Dot, could you please speak? Dot?
Okay.
You're muted. Where are you? Oh, good. See you. You're muted. On mute.
Do you have her muted, or is she?
She
I don't think she knows she is.
Yes, good. You're good now.
I keep unmuting myself, and then I keep getting muted by someone else. I don't know how that works.
All right.
I have two questions, Richard. Thank you. In the report, I don't see the report on assets and liabilities, the balance sheet accounts.
Right. I did indicate that we were not able to have produced the balance sheet simply because for this year, we're not able to actually utilize the new accounting software that we had. And so due to this COVID-19, there was a lot of problem we had. We had people who were supposed to have helped us set up, and we were not able to meet in person and whatnot. And so it made it difficult. To date, we still need to generate, some of these information, for example, for accounts payable. We want to make sure we have the realistic figure. And we are working with Alida Mitchell so that we know exactly who we owe and what's the total, and also the account receivables in terms of our pledges and whatever payable we have. These are things that we are still working on. And as soon as this is done, we'll be able to produce it.
Okay, a question. So the profit and loss report was generated from the new accounting system?
No, it was not reported from the new. I just told you that.
So why couldn't you do the assets and liabilities from the old system the same way you did with profit and loss?
Yeah, but what happened, with the hope that we were going to start using the new system, we just did not use the old system that we had. So, and in true sense, it would have really been, something good to continue the old one before leaving, and just, so we had a difficult getting into that. But moving
in a lot of organizations, the asset and liability report is often more important than the profit and loss report.
I do agree.
Another question, do we now have two bank accounts?
Yes.
Why isn't there a report on the other bank account? We just one account?
Yes, the other bank account, we also have, that's the That's the one that we have, as our operating account now. The first.
Right. Why don't we show a report for that account?
We did. We have a total balance in that account of, as per the bank statement as of December 31st, we have 42,776.07.
No, but I'm confused why you would just do one and not two.
We did two.
We did.
Because I just see the restricted account.
Yes, but maybe, but what is happening, all of the accounting activity that took place on the administrative or the operating expenses came directly from our first Nafi Bell account.
I don't understand.
All right. You may have to have a separate conversation with the treasurer because this is going to prolong. Basically, what's happening is that there's one account that helps us to better manage the capital expenditure and one that is strictly operating. First report that was given was operation, and the second report that was given by the treasurer was the one what we call restricted or...
Yeah, I see that.
Right. So those two accounts are what we're operating with. This one here is the restricted one. This is the second account that takes care of all of the programming, the holder baskets, the big repairs that we have, et cetera, that we got grants for, and we are monitoring separately. Those in the separate account. Does that help anywhere?
No, I just think if we have two bank accounts, they should be both shown.
Well, that's what we're doing. This is one, and the other is this, which is the operating account.
No, that's a profit and loss sheet. That's not
right.
A bank account. That's a profit and loss sheet.
Father, I think I know exactly what she's talking about. If we had the balance sheet, because that is part of the balance sheet item.
Okay.
That's what she's talking about.
Okay.
So moving forward.
So is this account part of the balance sheet?
Yes. And we don't have that right now, but we certainly will have that. Get all of the details together. All right, but
so throughout the year it was like operating manually,
Yes.
So.
But what the fiscal position shows, Dot, is that we are in a reasonably good fiscal position, irrespective of the hiccups that we had during the years, and that we are doing better, and that we will do better. So hopefully we'll get all of that, and the balance sheet will be, we get that available as soon as we get all the numbers crunched in. But we're working on the system now since we have some significant technical help to get it done. And so when that report is available, we'll get it out to the general parish.
I have another question, although it keeps being mentioned that we're only drawing 100,000 from the PEMS, what we used to call it, as opposed to 120 or 125. I'm looking at the PEMS account and it looks like there were two draws for $100,000. Am I misreading something?
I don't know.
On page 23.
No, actually it's, yeah, the 100,000 draw, that's it.
What are the two negative $100,000 amounts then?
That was, this one should not, give me 1 minute. It was actually only one draw. It's not two draw that you have.
But then how does the math work out?
There was a cash transfer of only $1,000 to, $100,000. But on the statement also specified, maybe it just repeated twice. That's why it happened. The statement also had it like $100,000.
But so are the two negative $100,000 included in the value of $1,498,000?
Yes, looking at the calculation, that is a $100,000. You can have $200,000. We did not withdraw $200,000.
But that's what your statement says.
Richard, Dot is right. It looks like it's $100,000 twice because you have it as a cash transfer, then you have it as other. So
actually, it's only a cash transfer, so that would be an omission.
Yeah, just get rid of the other because
yes.
If you do the math, it is 100,000.
Exactly.
However, I'm saying it looks like 200,000.
Okay. But what happened? It also appeared twice on the statement, so actually it was only $100,000.
Okay. So if I remove that $100,000, will the total at the bottom change?
We have to do my math and see.
All right, once we do that, you need time for that correction, Richard?
Yes, I'll look at it.
Okay, so once Richard get that, since the Treasury report is there for information, I want to move on with some recognition of ministry reports for those who have written reports, and we'll get back to Dot's question in a minute. So we have ministry reports that were submitted. I'm going to look at them as we go through the booklet. Already has some already. Fundraising committee. Alda, do you want to say anything more about that?
No, nothing more than is stated.
Good. And Devlin, you did a pastoral care report for the Staten Island Care Rehabilitation. Do you want to say anything more about that?
No, thank you. I think it's quite thorough.
Thank you so much. Feeding ministry. Victor, do you want to say anything about that? Victor? He's not there. Good. All right. Evangelism report. Bill Sherman. You want to say anything more about that? Knitting group. Judy, do you want to say anything about that?
No, I don't want to say anything. It's just that, yes, we'd like more people, and we're a good, hearty group of 5 people, and we'd like some more. We do quite a bit of knitting for different people for the Tuesday, no, not the Tuesday, the church on St. Mark's Place, and no, Henderson Avenue. And we do a lot. We do a lot for Snug Harbor. We do a lot for Daddy's Diapers. And we just want to get back together again soon.
All right, as soon as we can. Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Anthony, do you want to say any more about the ministry report?
No, I think it's all in there. You can read it at your leisure, but thank you.
Thank you. I like your pipe.
Thank you.
Report. Alda, you want to say anything about that? Outreach? Nope.
Pay attention to the last sentence on the outreach, and that I am passing on the baton for the feeding ministry. The after school programs, I think it's clearly written out as to what's going on with those programs, and Unfortunately, they have not yet resumed for this year, with the exception of choral, only because Jana volunteers her services for that program. But the other paid staff, we are not yet able to resume the program until we know how we stand with finance.
Thank you for that update. Plant equipment. This was written by Rich Valle. Rich, are you on? Since you have done most of it, but our new P&E chair, Daniel, are you on? Daniel Del Valle, are you on? No, so the document is there for your edification. Or the heart of our ministries, Christian formation. Catherine, do you want to say anything about the report submitted?
No, just thank you to everyone who's involved and who has been involved.
Thank you so much. We have a report from Maria Mitchell on African drumming. Ukulele, Carlos wrote that as part of the outreach ministry. Carlos, you want to say anything about that? You're on. I can see your face.
Yes. Seeing as we are in the state we are in financially, I think as far as the, we should consider temporarily suspending the after-school ministries, such as ukulele, because of the technical difficulties of producing a program that we're up to the standards that we're used to. I don't know if doing it on Zoom, the way we're doing it now, is the best allocation of that money. And okay. Until we can get back together to actually do it with the children, it's something that we should consider.
All right, that's certainly something we can take up at Vestry, and it's a point of suggestion that we can look at.
Right.
Yes, sir. Jenna, are you on? You want to say anything about the choir? You submitted the report. Jenna? Don't have, and the book read or book club.
Yes. Yes, I would suggest and actually urge people to look at the list, the recommended reading list. I think you will find it very enlightening and very helpful. And Father Trevor, I was hoping you could make a few comments about, if it's appropriate now, the inter-parish council conversation with Ibram, Zendi, the who wrote How to Be an Anti-Racist. You were instrumental in helping with that. That was part of really our book club too.
Yes, that was done in late fall or middle fall. We had a 6-week conversation around how to be an anti-racist. I had the book somewhere around here. About 7 of us participated in that conversation, including a friend from North Carolina who joined us periodically. And then we had the final conversation with the author, to which we submitted about 7 or 8 questions. And of the questions submitted, 3 of them were lifted up at the diocesan conversation. So that was very good. This will continue again. The book read there, I've invited Anne that we look at Begin Again, which is, where's my book? Begin Again, which is a sociological political analysis of how we got as a country, taking James Baldwin's analysis of the America we live in. But it's a book written by Eddie Glaude. That's something that we want to consider for our next book read. And we certainly encourage you to join us for that.
And may I add this, please?
Sure.
I think you and Susan Fowler had considered going, he's at Princeton, right, to try to speak with him?
Yeah, not Susan Fowler, Susan Guglielmi.
Oh, excuse me, Suzanne.
Yes, Suzanne.
Yes. Is there any information on that?
No, not followed up on that, no.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on. Bible study discussion. This is one which is continued every Sunday with Rich Valle. We have weekly Bible study, which is done by Anthony. So the adult Christian formation piece is being done, and there's a weekly prayer meeting, which is done by me, and the Psalms, which are done by Michelle. I got word from Kirsten in an email, I think I saw it yesterday, that the Acts of the Apostle group, that has fizzled out. And so that's not going, but if people are still interested in taking and being part of that group, the study of the Acts of the Apostle, certainly we can have that facilitated. So that's Bible discussion, Rich. Those are the reports in the booklet. Again, get your booklet and read them for the details of the various ministries. Richard, are you able to give us any more information based on the question from Doc?
I think what I'm going to do, because I see the two 100 here twice. So what I'm going to do is to seek, I'm going to call up, our trust and try to figure out, and when I have an answer, I will get back with her.
Okay, thank you. Well, that concludes the treasurer's report. That concludes the recognition of ministry reports. Any new business for our consideration? Seeing none, I want to make some acknowledgements for outstanding, what I call outstanding leadership during this COVID period. My list is relatively long. We are not going to be able to do all of the things we've done, like plaques, etc. But I want people to recognize that these persons have done significant ministry during this COVID period. They have either called and asked, how can we do A or B? Or when asked, have not said no. They have been ready to jump in and do whatever they could in order to keep our community together. So I want to recognize these, both those who are not so young and those who are very young, who have jumped in, both feet, head, hand, and did what they could to support the ministry of the church over the last few months. I start out with Susan Fowler, our senior warden. This is her, she has served her full life on the vestry. So we want to thank her profusely for her ministry, for her edging on, and for all that she did to make things happen in the church. I want to thank outstanding leadership, Michelle Heath, who jumped in with head, hand, knows everything to make sure that when we come back into the church, we have a clean church. We're still working on that. Alda Mitchell, if there is $10,000 raised in funds, there is no doubt that she is there and always thinking about what next can we do to raise money for the life of the church. Catherine Barnett, quiet but very deep and sound. When we lost Lisa and David as the core for the Christian formation, Catherine was my next choice, and she jumped in with all that she had to take it on, and brought along with her several people that may not have been certainly considered. So Heather Del Valle, what a job that she has done for the Godly Play in an age of COVID. And we've done everything through technology. Nicole Haylock has been her assistant and done significant in that. These people have just come on and say, yes, we will, and have stepped up to the plate. We thank Marshall Green and Nick Dowling for their work and keeping the Rec 13-1 going, and Marshall Winter and Carol Bratton. I hear from Carol when she's on to the prayer how much fun it is. It is challenging, but it is fun. The Rec 13-2 group, they have stepped in. Certainly, particular Marshall Winter, certainly who we know is not as mobile as she used to be, but certainly has been willing to take on this, certainly at the encouragement of Catherine, no doubt. Our new P&E chair has come and moved the ball down the field. We are about to get a touchdown, and that's a good thing. I'm using football metaphor at this particular point. We're close to the Super Bowl. Daniel Del Valle, he has done some tremendous work and continue to do that. I can't say enough about our music director and organist who has been behind the scene creating all the music videos that we need for Sunday worship. He puts that all together and continues to be a real support. Lee's Bible study on Zoom every Thursday. A wonderful support. So thank Dr. Blair and Dr. Webb for their significant contributions in the reopening committee. Dr. Blair and Attorney Morris, Andrea Morris, for the stewardship committee, leading in this time of pandemic and doing the kind of follow-ups that were necessary to get us where we are at this point. Can't say enough about our treasurer, Richard Zeze, who continues to spend enormous time trying to give us as much detail as we can to keep our books in play. Susan Guglielmi, Ministry of Calling. This is a new ministry that she has taken on, and I want to thank her, just stepped in so that we could stay in contact with all of the people all of the time. And definitely I can say,
she also, Father Bath, I'm sorry to interrupt, sir. She also was able to get me the volunteers to clean the church.
Thank you. And Devlin can't say enough about her in terms of her encouraging us and committing us to reading. She has been helpful in that. Our youth and young adults, they may not be able to lift large things, but when you call upon them, they have been there to support. I want to recognize Damali Brown. She has been the kind of X factor if I want somebody young, certainly by the urging of her parents and grandmother, but certainly she has been there. Leila Gifford, the organizer. She gets in and has done thing. Eva Black, one of our young people who's there, and Angela Lindsay. These are the persons I want to recognize, and I will appropriately recognize all of the above at a time when we return in person. I want to, I know that there are others who may be suggested to me outside of this, and I'm open to any other suggestions. I will be preparing the necessary certificates that will be presented to you at an appropriate time. So please know that I appreciate all that you have done. Some people have gone ahead and done some significant work with their ministries. Let us continue in this vein, and we can build, I want to use Biden's term, build back better. I think we can do that. So thank you for all that you have done. If there's anything else that you think that we can do in order to keep this ministry alive, I am all ears, open, and I am going to be a little bit more mindful of Sabbath time, but I am open at all times for your calls, your counsel, your wisdom. I'm not the smartest cookie in the block. There's some smarter cookies than me. And when you come with your suggestions, I listen and I want to process them and then see where we go. There are a few things still in the pipeline that needs to be acted upon, but I think timing is essential. We can't do all at the same time, but we can do it piece by piece, measured and strategic.
Father, may I speak? Can I
Ann.
speak? Yes. Father Trevor,
thank you.
I think you deserve many accolades for being this wonderful spiritual leader, and dare I use the term CEO? I don't know if that's appropriate, but with your pragmatism, your vision, your compassion, I think this is, you deserve a lot of credit, and you're very modest about it. And also the fact that I think you have encouraged us to be even closer as members of this congregation with, ironically, it sounds, with virtual, but the fact is we see all these little photos of everyone. And for weeks now, with the beautiful service that I'm sure everyone else looks forward to, it's the high point of my week. And then also your encouragement with your beautiful expression, share what is on your heart. I think that is so beautiful. And I really feel that we have grown to know each other much better. And that's due to your spiritual and management, leadership. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Anne, for your kind words. I remain modest because when I'm finished here, my wife still tells me, take out the garbage. So, I don't have anything, but thank you so much for your kindness. I mean, it has been a long and hard journey. I am constantly in thought as to what can we do more to encourage others to be, but I recognize I've been in ministry long enough now. I'm 65 years old, and I know that we're not going to get everybody to do all that we put out, but we try to reach as many people as we can, given the circumstances. We will be back together. We will be back, and I'm hoping that we can come back and build back better as we go forward. Are there any other comments at this?
Yes. Father Bab, I'd also like to thank Elizabeth Gattulo and Charlotte Hewitt for working with the Scouts. They're very quiet behind the scenes, but they do a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, Nancy.
And also Beth McLean for working with the Financial Secretary's report.
Thank you. Thank you. I've done, yeah.
I would also like to thank Liz Gattulo and Charlotte, as well as Catherine Barnett and Alda because
and Judy.
Oh, and Judy Davis, I'm sorry. I'd like to thank them all for us being able to give Harbor Terrace a Christmas, even though I didn't deliver it until the week after, but I would like to thank everybody.
Thank you, Willie. Thank you. Well, we come to this.
Father Bob?
Yes, sir.
Let me also use the time to again thank Alida Mitchell because she one of those the responsibility of the kind of functions that we carry out. Treasurer is only dealing with figures that come in, and also he's been very, very, proactive when it comes to writing the checks, following up what we owe, and what should be prioritized. I'd like to say thank you to her, and also to Mike, who is the chairman of the finance committee, and all of the members, including Willie Black. I think the more we continue to work together, the better. We have a very good place of worship and sharing our expertise together. Let me use the time to also encourage others, that can also join us in making sure that our church become one of the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much. At this time, we would normally commission the new vestry. I'm going to delay that until next Sunday. Next Sunday, we will commission the new vestry as part of our liturgy. I will send specific invitations to all the members of the new vestry. I'm not so sure if all of them are on this morning, but to encourage them to be in worship next Sunday so that we can recognize them and commission the vestry in its totality. So thank all of you for your patience and for your time today. Would someone move for the adjournment of this annual meeting?
Move to adjourn.
Moved by Shelley, our new senior warden.
I second the movement.
Bill Keck, second. Nick, did you get that? Nick? I think the clerk got it. If not, I will have it recorded. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those not in favor? So that we can see each other. Any abstentions? I think the ayes have it. We're still 37 large. I want to thank all of you for your time. Do have a wonderful day. If we have not answered all of your questions today, be assured we will get back to you with whatever questions we have. There are a few things that we will work through early in the new vestry so that we can get back to you. Things like, and we have not mentioned them today, we're still working on the Liberian project. We get back to you as to where we are, but we will continue to work on that. And the other areas like the chimney, we will continue to work with those. I don't know, our new P&E chair, I didn't see him. He probably had to leave to go somewhere, but those are things we'll get back to you on. So have a great day. We're not going to engage in our chat this morning. I think we have been worn to the bone. So have a great day. Have a great week. God loves you. I love you too. I look forward to working with the new vestry. Bye-bye.